The Avengers. Debuting in 1961, The Avengers began as a straightforward espionage thriller but quickly morphed into a surreal mix of spycraft, science fiction, and British wit. Central to its charm was Patrick Macnee's John Steed, the ever-calm, bowler-hatted agent whose genteel exterior belied sharp instincts. But it was the arrival of Diana Rigg as Emma Peel in 1965 that truly transformed the series. Brilliant, stylish, and capable of both martial arts and quantum theory, Peel wasn't just a partner. She was a feminist icon in leather boots, reshaping TV's portrayal of women in action. Her fashion-forward wardrobe, crafted by John Bates, became a visual manifesto of the mod era and would echo in pop culture for decades to come. Syndicated in the United States by ABC in 1966, the show kept its uniquely British flavor, quirky, stylish, and playfully cerebral. The Steed-Peel relationship, grounded in mutual respect rather than romantic conquest, broke narrative molds, earning praise from critics and scholars alike. The franchise stumbled with a much-maligned 1998 reboot, panned by critics like Roger Ebert for losing the show's essence. Yet the idea of a revival lingers, especially as modern anxieties, AI, surveillance, deepfakes, mirror the show's original themes of disruption and intrigue. Done right, a reboot could channel its signature blend of charm and subversion, proving once again that The Avengers was always ahead of its time. The Wild Wild West. The Wild Wild West debuted on CBS in September of 1965, throwing traditional television categories into disarray. A western infused with espionage, early science fiction, and Victorian-era gadgetry, it was a bold experiment at a time when the western genre was beginning to lose steam. Robert Conrad played James West, a sharply dressed government agent, while Ross Martin portrayed Artemus Gordon, a theatrical genius known for his disguises and mechanical inventions. Their missions often veered from standard shootouts to clashes with rogue scientists and bizarre contraptions, most notably those engineered by Dr. Miguelito Loveless, a recurring villain portrayed by Michael Dunn. Loveless, whose motivations were unusually layered for the era, became a standout figure, blending revenge, intellect, and steampunk-style technology long before the term existed. Some TV historians suggest the series helped redefine the boundaries of what a Western could be, mixing post-Civil War settings with speculative tech in ways that still feel ahead of their time. Speculation has been floating around for years that its genre-blending DNA laid the groundwork for modern mashups like Firefly and the Westworld reboot, though direct links remain conjectural. The 1999 film adaptation, despite a high-profile cast and budget, floundered under tonal confusion and over-the-top effects. Even so, the founding series has held onto a cult following, and many maintain it's overdue for a modern remake, one that leans into its alt-history potential and retro-futuristic flair. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. In 1964, NBC took an unexpected swing at Cold War tensions with The Man from U.N.C.L.E., a spy series that paired an American agent, Napoleon Solo, with a Soviet operative, Ilya Kuryakin, as allies in a global peacekeeping agency. The concept was developed by Sam Rolfe, with early input from James Bond creator Ian Fleming, who contributed Solo's name before stepping back. Produced by MGM Television, the series dove into espionage with a twist. Stylish suits, futuristic gadgets, and a tone that danced between suspense and satire. Robert Vaughn and David McCallum headlined, and McCallum's quiet, enigmatic portrayal of Ilya unexpectedly turned him into a teen idol. By the mid-60s, the series had reached audiences far beyond the United States, gaining traction in international markets and standing out for its unusual East-West partnership. Eventually, the show shifted from grounded spy drama to more fantastical, campy adventures, a tonal pivot that some fans embraced and others questioned. Ratings dipped by 1968, prompting NBC to cancel the series after 4 seasons. A stylish but commercially underwhelming film reboot surfaced in 2015, starring Henry Cavill and Armie Hammer, sparking mild interest but no franchise follow-up. Still, the original's core premise, rival superpowers forced into cooperation, feels more timely than ever. Multiple insiders surmise that renewed global tensions and the rise of serialized streaming thrillers could make The Man from U.N.C.L.E. a strong candidate for a modern, high-stakes reboot. Rumors have even bubbled about potential interest from major streaming platforms, though no authorized commitment has emerged. If timing is everything, this Cold War relic might be right on schedule for a second life. The Time Tunnel. In 1966, Irwin Allen followed up his sci-fi hit Lost in Space with an even bolder concept, the Time Tunnel. The series centered on two government scientists, Dr. Tony Newman and Dr. Doug Phillips, who become stranded in a secret U.S. time travel project and are flung into different eras each week. One episode might land them on the deck of the Titanic in April of 1912, another in the chaos of Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. The show's rotating historical settings gave it a cinematic scope that was rare for the time, especially on a television budget. Production leaned heavily on repurposed sets and effects from 20th Century Fox's film vaults, but even with those shortcuts, the costs were high. The show ran for only one season, 30 episodes, before ABC pulled the plug, citing both ratings and budget concerns. Still, its blend of speculative science and historical drama left a mark. Some analysts and educators pointed to its potential for sparking curiosity about real-world events, even if it played fast and loose with historical accuracy. Quantum Leap and Timeless would later echo its formula, time travelers navigating pivotal moments in history, but the Time Tunnel did it first. While its episodes were mostly self-contained, the show retained an unbroken setup and recurring characters, a structure that hinted at the serialized storytelling that would dominate decades later. Ongoing buzz about a possible reboot has circulated for years. Some dare to guess that Allen's vision was simply ahead of its time. Too ambitious for the 60s, but tailor-made for today's streaming landscape. With modern CGI, deeper character arcs, and a sharper focus on historical nuance, a revival could finally give the concept the longevity it never got the first time around. Green Acres. Green Acres debuted in September of 1965, joining CBS's slate of rural comedies, but it didn't stay in the barn for long. On the surface, it followed a Manhattan lawyer, Oliver Wendell Douglas, played by Eddie Albert, who uproots his life to pursue a pastoral dream in Hooterville, dragging along his sophisticated wife Lisa, portrayed by Ava Gabor. But what looked like a simple fish-out-of-water sitcom quickly unraveled into something far stranger. Telephones sprouted in cornfields. Characters broke the fourth wall. A pig named Arnold Ziffel watched television and had a bank account and was treated like a local celebrity. In one episode, Lisa reads the episode script while performing it. In another, Oliver's dialogue is subtitled in English, despite being spoken in English. Critics have since labeled the show a surrealist outlier, with the AV Club's Noel Murray calling it a Dadaist comedy that somehow aired during the height of the Vietnam War. While its peers leaned into slapstick or moral lessons, Green Acres quietly mocked television itself, long before meta-humor became mainstream. A few propose that its absurdist DNA helped shape later genre-bending comedies like Twin Peaks and Community. Gender dynamics flipped expectations too. Despite being framed as the out-of-touch city wife, Lisa adapts to rural life far better than her idealistic husband, who clings to a fantasy of agrarian self-reliance. That reversal gave the show a subtle satirical edge. Yet despite its creative risks, Green Acres didn't survive the CBS rural purge of 1971, when the network cleared space for more socially conscious urban programming like All in the Family. Still, in syndication, it gained cult status, especially among viewers drawn to its offbeat tone. Recurring conjecture of a potential revival has lingered for years, with some daring to guess that a modern version could lean even harder into its surrealism, especially in an era where urban-rural tensions, environmental anxieties, and media self-awareness dominate the cultural conversation. Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Premiering on ABC in September of 1964, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea spun out of Irwin Allen's hit 1961 film, which had earned around $7 million, an impressive box office haul for the era. The series dove headfirst into Cold War tensions, speculative science, and underwater intrigue aboard the nuclear-powered Seaview. More than just a set piece, the Seaview, with its glass-nosed design and ambitious miniatures, became a visual centerpiece that pushed 60s television effects to new depths. By Season 2, the addition of the flying sub added flair and proved a merchandising success, turning up in toy stores and fan collections across the country. While the early seasons focused on real-world fears like nuclear disaster and ecological collapse, the show's tone took a sharp turn by Season 3. embracing monsters, aliens, and time travel. This shift divided fans, yet the series sailed on for 4 seasons and 110 episodes, earning cult status. Still, it remains one of the few Irwin Allen properties never to receive a full reboot, despite its themes now feeling uncannily current. Some speculate that tonal inconsistencies or rights complications have kept it underwater, but with the rise of modern reimaginings like Lost in Space and Battlestar Galactica, Allen's blend of crisis and spectacle seems ripe for resurfacing in a world increasingly defined by deep-sea mysteries and environmental peril. My Favorite Martian. Premiering in September of 1963, My Favorite Martian hit the airwaves during the thick of the space race, as the United States was gearing up for Project Gemini's first crewed missions. The show flipped the Cold War narrative on its head, not with paranoia, but with punchlines. Ray Walston played a stranded Martian scientist hiding in plain sight as Uncle Martin, while a young Los Angeles reporter, portrayed by Bill Bixby in his first major starring TV role, tried to keep the alien's identity under wraps. The series mixed slapstick with sci-fi, featuring telepathy, levitation, and invisibility, effects pulled off with practical tricks that were considered high-tech for their time. Many television historians credit the show with helping to shape the supernatural sitcom formula that would soon define the decade, alongside hits like Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie. Its core idea, an alien blending in with humans, echoed decades later in shows like Mork and Mindy and Third Rock from the Sun. The show's influence may be stronger than it gets credit for. A rebooted film in 1999 starring Jeff Daniels and Christopher Lloyd flopped both critically and commercially. Several reviewers speculated that the failure came from trying to modernize a 60s-era premise without updating its emotional depth. But in today's world of surveillance culture, identity crises, and growing distrust of outsiders, those foundational themes feel oddly current. Intermittent talk points to a streaming-era revival, with some suggesting a darker, more satirical tone. If true, that could position My Favorite Martian not just as a nostalgic throwback, but as a timely commentary on what it means to be alien in a world that fears difference. It Takes a Thief. In 1968, ABC launched a sleek twist on the spy genre with It Takes a Thief, casting Robert Wagner as Alexander Mundy, a convicted cat burglar offered freedom in exchange for working undercover for the US government. This central idea upended convention, blending international espionage with a dash of jet-set glamour. At a time when Cold War tensions were fueling a boom in spy dramas, this series leaned into charm over grit, offering a charismatic anti-hero who preferred tuxedos to trench coats. Plenty of watchers believe the premise drew inspiration from Alfred Hitchcock's To Catch a Thief, though the show carved out its own identity with serialized missions, clever heists, and exotic locales. In a surprise casting move, Hollywood legend Fred Astaire appeared in a recurring role as Mundy's father, Alistair, a retired thief with old-school polish. The pairing of Wagner and Astaire added unexpected emotional depth beneath the show's glossy surface. Though it wrapped after just 3 seasons in 1970, its influence is hard to miss. Shows like White Collar and Leverage echo its central tension. When does a thief become the good guy? Mentions of a contemporary reboot occasionally reappear, with others envisioning Mundy as a digital age hacker, navigating cybercrime and surveillance states. With its stylish tone, moral gray zones, and enduring appeal, It Takes a Thief remains a standout candidate for a 21st century revival. Petticoat Junction. Petticoat Junction premiered on CBS in 1963, part of a rural comedy wave that quietly dominated the decade. Created by Paul Henning, already known for the Beverly Hillbillies, it followed the lives of Kate Bradley and her 3 daughters as they ran the Shady Rest Hotel in the fictional town of Hooterville. While it never made overt political statements, the show offered a subtle shift from the era's norms. The Bradley sisters were portrayed as independent thinkers, often steering the plot with practical problem-solving, rather than relying on male characters. Critics and television historians have since identified this aspect as a calm reflection of evolving gender expectations in early 60s media. The series existed within one of television's earliest shared universes, with crossover characters from Green Acres and the Beverly Hillbillies appearing in and out of Hooterville. This interconnected world added a layer of novelty that many argue was ahead of its time. But the show hit a turning point in 1968, when Bea Benaderet, who played Kate Bradley, passed away from a cancer-related illness. Her absence left a palpable gap. Despite attempts to refocus the series around other characters, the chemistry never fully recovered, and ratings dipped. Today, Petticoat Junction remains a fascinating candidate for a remake, not just for its nostalgic charm, but for its overlooked possibilities. The idea of a family-run inn in a rural town could be reimagined through a modern lens, exploring themes like female entrepreneurship, economic survival in small-town America, and generational clashes. A few enthusiasts even propose that a reboot could merge with today's trend of shared TV universes, possibly reconnecting with updated versions of Green Acres or the Beverly Hillbillies. Whether that's wishful thinking or a future streaming deal in the making, the bones of Petticoat Junction are still sturdy enough to build on. The Ghost and Mrs Mureer. Premiering in 1968, The Ghost and Mrs Mureer stood out in a sea of sitcoms by pairing a widowed writer with the spirit of a 19th century sea captain. Adapted from the 1947 film, the production embraced light fantasy and romantic comedy, anchored by Hope Lange's Emmy-winning portrayal of Carolyn Muir and Edward Mulhare's charming, yet stoic, Captain Daniel Gregg. Lange took home back-to-back Emmys in 1969 and in 1970, an impressive feat for a female lead in a genre hybrid. While shows like Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie were already bending reality on primetime TV, The Ghost and Mrs Mureer carved a quieter niche, blending emotional depth with the supernatural. Others maintain its early cancellation after just 2 seasons. First on NBC, then moved to ABC, had more to do with network politics than ratings. As time went on, it gained a cult following, with numerous fans and analysts drawing connections between its premise and later paranormal romance like Ghost and Being Human. Hush talks of a reboot have surfaced occasionally, but nothing concrete, yet. With today's appetite for prestige remakes and serialized storytelling, this ghostly classic might just be waiting in the wings for a second life. The Fugitive. When The Fugitive hit ABC in September of 1963, it tossed out the rulebook. At a time when most dramas hit the reset button every week, this series dared to run a continuous storyline. Dr. Richard Kimball, played by David Jansen, was a man on the run, wrongly convicted of killing his wife and relentlessly pursued by Lieutenant Philip Gerard, portrayed by Barry Morse. Kimball's mission? To track down a mysterious one-armed man he believed was the real killer. The storyline bore striking similarities to the real-life case of Dr. Sam Shepard, a Cleveland physician whose controversial 1954 conviction and eventual acquittal in 1966 captured national attention. While co-creator Roy Huggins and producer Quinn Martin publicly denied any direct link, many television historians view the Shepard case as a clear influence. Commentators hailed the show's noir atmosphere and moral complexity, and Jansen's performance, exhausted, stoic, and quietly tormented, gave the series emotional weight. Off-camera, the role reportedly took a toll on him, with some accounts suggesting he struggled with the demands of fame and the production schedule. By the time the finale aired in August of 1967, nearly 78 million viewers tuned in, delivering a record-breaking 72% audience share, one of the highest in television history at the time. It wasn't just a finale, it was a national event. The concept proved its staying power again in 1993 with a blockbuster film adaptation starring Harrison Ford. And while there have been attempts to reboot the series, like the short-lived CBS version in 2000 and the Quibi update in 2020, some viewers insist the franchise still hasn't reached its full modern potential. Recent buzz suggests a prestige TV revival could flip the narrative, possibly told from Gerard's perspective or digging deeper into Kimball's psychological unraveling. With themes of justice, identity, and obsession still front and center in today's storytelling landscape, The Fugitive remains a prime candidate for a bold, character-driven remake. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment. Also consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to get notified of our new videos each week. Thanks for watching.